Hi, I'm Oliver. Welcome to today's book discussion. Today I'm talking about a book by Mark Z. Danielewski. I heard about this author for the first time very recently. It was a couple of months ago. I read an article about entitled Top 10 Books That Are Unfilmable. So, I looked through them, and obviously, I was interested to see what kind of books they were, and I wanted to see for myself if they were indeed unfilmable. So, among that top 10, and if I remember well, it was the number one, it was a book by that author, so Mark Z. Danielewski, and it's called House of Leaves. And I have yet to finish it. It is quite an endeavor. And it didn't click really the first time when I started reading it, so I might give it another try at another time, but it's still a gorgeous book, and I'm just glad that I have it. And so the fact that it was unfilmable, the fact that the story seemed to be interesting, it was a haunted house story, which I haven't read a lot of, so I was keen into the genre, if you will. And then when I started going through it, let's see, I saw that the book was bonkers. So the whole way that it's written, I don't know if you can see here, there are things that are sort of written in red that have been crossed over. You have things that are like that, just a little bit at the bottom, just a little bit at the top. So he sort of writes in a, he uses the format of the page to bring even more to the forefront the emotion. I don't know if that's making sense, but he is already mixing the art of writing. To me, that's how it feels. He's mixing the way of writing with cinematography. So he uses everything at his disposal. So not only his words, but also the format of the page. So I loved that. But I still haven't finished it. But then around Christmas time, I was walking through chapters, and I saw this book, and I was like, wait, where do I... Oh, right, I know this author from that other book. And that's the only reason why I picked it up. That's it. I picked up a book by an author whose other book I haven't even finished yet. That's just me. And so this book is titled The 50-Year Sword. And the other reason why I picked it up is because the cover is gorgeous. And yes, I'm that type of person who picks up a book simply because the cover is gorgeous. And I mean, you can sort of see it. It's sort of like there's some dots as if it was in Braille. So it's quite nice. So let's discuss the story. So the story is a horror story, or it feels like a bonfire horror story or campfire horror story. Like I would very much see myself at my cabin in the middle of the wood at night with marshmallow telling this exact same story. So it might look big, but it's actually quite short. As you can see, there's sometimes just a couple of words on a page. So, I mean, an hour or 2 hours and you'll be done with this book. I still highly suggest that you check this one out. So, the story is about 5 children who are in an orphanage. And there's some sort of a special evening because it's the holidays. So the lady in charge of the orphanage has booked a storyteller to come over and tell the story to the children. So this hooded figure comes in. I'm here for the story. He comes along with a big long box. They go upstairs into a room lit by candle, and then he starts telling the story. So he says, oh, I'm a dark man with a dark heart, and I've lost the need for I've lost the feeling of compassion and whatever, and I'm only seeking revenge, and I was only seeking revenge, and I wanted to kill and eliminate my enemies, but I could not find any weapon or poison that could do justice to my feeling. I therefore heard about this weird guy who could build the perfect weapon for me. So he decides to go on a pilgrimage, and it's a very long, weird journey about going through a forest without sound, and then going up a mountain surrounded by the echoes of your past and present, and duplicate shadows of yourself going up the mountain. And then he meets the guy in question. Is, I'm here because I want your weapon. So the guy's like, oh, you know, I'm gonna have to take something from you. But I have all sorts of weapons. And it's sort of very poetic. He says, oh, I have swords that can cut through flesh, cut through rocks. But then he's like, I have a sword that can cut emotion, that can cut will, that can cut dreams. I have the teeniest sword, and I have swords as big as the sky. So it's quite weird, and then you read this, you're like, huh? And then the guy finally picks a weapon and then leaves. And then we're to understand that the storyteller who came in with a large box was actually the guy from the story, and he is carrying a sword that he picked up from that guy. So, you know, the children are like, oh my god, is that the sword? Oh my god, that can be the sword. Oh my god, I'm terrified. So the lady from the orphanage is like, look at this kid. Like, there's nothing here, because it turns out that the box looks empty. So, you know, she's like, look, it's just air. You know, even if I do this, I'm not cutting myself. Blah, blah, blah. And then the storyteller leaves. And a little bit before midnight, a guy comes in. A guy's arrived at the orphanage. A gentleman arrives and says, oh, I'm the storyteller you hired. I just got cut into traffic or blizzard, I can't remember. So, but here I am finally. So, you know, oh my god, but who was that hooded figure that came in? Who was that storyteller? Oh my god. So the lady in charge of the orphanage falls into pieces because she cut herself while she was using the sword, and she fell into pieces at midnight. And that was it. Okay. So that's the story. It's a cool story. It's a great story. It's a short story. It's very quick. That's not why you read it, okay? You read the book for the journey. There's something about the way first of all, the way that it's written is brilliant, because it's sort of retold. It's retold through the eyes of the 5 children. So, you know, they misspoke sometimes. They used bad words. Like, no example comes to mind right now, even though I looked at it prior. But, you know, some kids will say "goed" instead of "went" because they sort of equated that "de" meant the past, right? I walked, I talked. So they'll say, well, I goed. So, you know, it's one of those, so, like, you read, and you don't necessarily pick up on those, and then all of a sudden you're like, oh my god, this is misspelled, or this is, and it's obviously meant to be, because the story is told through the eyes of those 5 young children. So those 5 children are telling the stories. So the whole book is a narration from those 5 people, and it's never what's used is at the beginning of the line there's always quotation mark, and that quotation mark is colored. There's a color, and each of those 5 people are color coded. So it's basically speaker 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I would say that it's, well, I haven't looked into it yet, so maybe it is, but at first read, it seems to be irrelevant as to who speaks when. But there might be a reason to it. But that's it. You read it for the beauty of the language, for the flow of the story, about how it's poetic and majestic, because that's really how it feels. It feels like a gigantic poem. It's written in prose, sort of. So it's a poem that's a horror story. When have you ever read that? I haven't. And I'm not huge on poetry, but this one I loved very much. And then you read it for the visual, because it has been I don't know, it feels like a graphic novel of some sort. So I told you that the cover was gorgeous. Well, it's only the beginning of it, because there's even things that are even more gorgeous than the cover. So the and it's the art has been designed and made by Atelier Z, or Atelier Z, I guess. I mean, it's just gorgeous. Let me just see if I can find a great picture somewhere. Maybe when... See? So that's when the storyteller, the first one, so the hooded figure who has vengeance in his heart, comes in. And I don't know if you can see, but it's stitches. Do you see that? So all of the art has been made with stitches. So, you know, like the wind is blowing and it's stitches. So it's always like that. So you have on one page, you have words, the text, and then most of the time that's how it works. So I mean, come on. There's only one word on this page. It's gorgeous. So everything about this book, really, was that sticking out the whole time? Brilliant. So, so yeah, you read the book for the story. You read it for the journey of the words. You read it for the art, for the drawing, if you will, like when the candles have been burned out. I mean, it's so it's gorgeous. So I feel that it's a mix between a graphic novel, a poem, a horror story, a philosophical story. So it's great. It's sort of this mishmash that at first might seem hard to reach. I will not lie. Like maybe the first 20-25 pages until the storyteller arrives, I'm like, why am I reading this? What is this? What is this? What is this? But then once the storyteller starts telling its story, it starts to be more conventional and very easy to follow, so all the way through. So even though you might be, even though at the beginning of the book might leave you cold, power through it until the storyteller arrives and start telling the story, and then you'll be fine. And yes, I'm sold on the Kobo and all of those e-reader, but obviously this is not an e-reader kind of book. It's a hard book kind of book. So there you go. I highly recommend it. Just go on a journey. Go on the journey of the 50-year sword. Just do. Boop. Go with it. Go with it. It's great. And I've read it a second time because when I picked up on the weird vocabulary, I wanted to see if I had missed on some. So it sort of rewards a second reading. So it's great. And it's not that long. But yeah, gorgeous. Gorgeous. Visually and spiritually and in its prose. It's great. Pick it up. So, by the way, so let me know if you've read the book, if you're going to buy the book. That's always nice. Have you read House of Leaves, the other book that I talked at the beginning? Have you read it? Is it worth for me to you know, give it another try and see if it's any good? Is it any good? So let me know. I'm always open to suggestion. Come check me out on Facebook or Twitter as well. I'm always open. So there you go. Until next time, take care. Bye.